Did we go to the moon? No, 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 no. We did not go to the moon, and there's some logical deductions as to why we didn't go to the moon. When Ford came out with the Ford Model T, did he come out with a Lincoln Continental? No, it had to be years and years and decades of development. You just can't come out with the very best first time ever. Hey, hey. So he would be advised. Oh yeah, if you're building a Lincoln Continental, you have to have fuel injection. Well, what's that now? It's relative, and what is the concept? You don't have the concept, you don't have the product. If you don't have a basis of earlier inventions that put together into a bigger, more advanced invention, if you don't have the basis of that, you have nothing. You have to have the brick and the cement. There's no two ways about it. So it would be kind of interesting if instead of Model T40 comes out with Continental, Lincoln Continental. In order to do that, he would have had to jump past generations. Okay, so they had no technology back then, and they were told they had no technology. They knew full well they did not have the technology. In the 60s, they did not have the technology to go to the moon. It's clear. Any idiot that says otherwise is slugman. I mean, it's just ridiculous. You can easily prove they did not have the technology. And there was one fellow, I forget his name, Thompson, I forget. Anyways, he was a head of health and safety, maybe not health, head of safety. Anyways, he did a 500-page report saying, you're not going to the moon. We don't have the technology. It doesn't exist. And he took his family out one day on Sunday, and they got tired of driving, so they decided to park the car and sleep on a railroad track. Well, he was gone. You have Grissom, who was the original, was going to be the original Neil Armstrong. He said, I'm not going anywhere in this tin can. This is dangerous. Yeah, he said, and then he said he was going to have a press conference saying this is dangerous. We don't have the technology, and he's going to have it Monday, and he died. Isn't that funny how they died? It's so cute. It's just coincidence. Oh, you are so knowledgeable, old master. Coincidence. And basically, how do you have a concept of something that doesn't even exist? Fly to the moon. With what? What kind of concept are you having? Go there in a wheelbarrow, or go in there in an air balloon? What are we talking here? But then in comes Werner von Braun, who says, yeah, we've got lots of technology when it comes to Halloween rockets. Yes. And so now it gave you a concept, it fused a concept in your head, plus a few movies before that, propaganda movies. Yeah, you get in a Halloween missile, and you go to the moon. Bing, boom. But the thing is, all the missiles that were developed and tested during the age of Apollo they blew up everywhere. They were blown up. Look up the movie. A funny thing happened on the way to the moon, and prepare to get blown away and get your slug eyes shot off. Okay? What can I say? I supply the link, but I don't want to. It's just too lazy. And go to the moon. What do you mean? Because there was a major scientific narrative that it was now proving that the moon was not a big rock in space. It was actually plasma. And they couldn't go to the moon. And he said on TV in an interview, look it up. The moon is plasma. Look it up and find him, get his name, take notes. You do the work. I'm not. I'm lazy. But I'm not slug lazy. Anything you say of truth, you got these two big eyes. You're a liar. That's not in the Bible. Well, you can take your Bible, and we won't get into details of that. There's no concept. And plus, you'd have to invent a machine, which that's what it is, the LEM and the module. You have to invent mechanics that never existed at that time. The concept didn't even exist. Oh, we're going to make like Ford, yeah, we're going to make a Lincoln Continental, and we're going to have, fuel injection. You don't even have the concept of what fuel injection does. Never mind, create it out of thin air. Hey, boss, I created one. Yeah, do I get a raise? It's just absolutely ridiculous. There's no concept. But yet they made parts for a machine that didn't even exist at the time. It wasn't even in the imagination of man. They make it. And instead of testing these parts because part failure is one of the biggest oppositions to mechanical machinery development. Parts fail. So they have the highest technology all of a sudden out of nowhere. And like I mentioned, all these rockets were exploding during experiments. And when it came time to the moon, go to the moon, bing bang to the moon, no problem at all, everything. Instrumental failure is number one risk. So you've got something invented that's never even been conceived, and there it is. It's never been created before because the concept it wasn't in the narrative. But they make up parts for a machine that hasn't even been invented yet, the LAM and all that, and the space capsule and all that. Isn't that really weird? Isn't that bizarre? And instead of being tested for 20, 30 years and improved upon and built upon, out of my head and on the drawing floor. Yeah, it goes pop, and then it goes pop onto the paper, pop onto a blueprint, and we're off to the moon. Does that sound like? And this is the most dangerous thing to ever do. They should have had, because of the thousands of newly invented mechanisms, they should have had a problem. You know, you see these aircraft carriers, oh, they're so impressive. They have mechanical failures constantly. There's mechanics on staff. They are there to fix the breakdowns constantly. But we have the Apollo program go right through, bing, bang, to the moon, with no problems at all. Oh, but we had Apollo 13. Can you believe Apollo 13? Well, then you don't know how they script things, anything. Because this is unknown, untested territory. You create a device to adapt to the new environment. But if you've never been on this environment before, oh my goodness. Unless you're the most imaginative person and psychic, I see dust and tree. You have no way to prepare for the environment you've never seen before. Anyways, they go to the moon, and not one piece of newly invented, untested part failed. Oh, they had a very short testing period. What if they invented a cell phone right off the bat, and it worked? No system failure, nothing. Wouldn't you be suspicious? So, in the age of the 60s, where they had nothing, they weren't ahead of the game. They were behind the Russians. That was well documented. They were way behind the Russians. Okay, so they're forced into a corner. They got to go to the moon, but they can't because they're way behind in technology. They don't know, and I doubt if the Russians were actually really ahead. I think that was propaganda for the war. There is a theory that they wanted to bankrupt the Soviet Union, so they created a fake space program that the Soviets would have to drain their economy for. Because with NASA, you just have to show a movie, and then you get what, $50 trillion. You'd have all these bugs, have all kinds of mechanical failures. Because they have to be tested for decades and decades, tested and perfected. And you learn with each failure, you grow and expand and rebuild the technology. They didn't have any of that. They had to get to the moon. Now, imagine making something, you're making a robot that's going to be adaptable to some unknown environment that you've never been before. Do they need feet to walk with, or do they have rollers, or what kind of concept are we dealing with here? Unless somebody previously landed on the moon, they wouldn't know how to design it. How do you design for something that's never been designed or invented yet? Who has to run on parts that have never been invented yet? But they just pull rabbits out of their hat, and everybody here, I believe, and all the slides, I believe. Okay, with the Van Allen radiation belt, they should have been Kentucky Fried. It was the highest level of radiation at that time because of sunspot activities. The sunspot greatly enlarged the level, expand the deadliness of the Van Allen radiation belt. But they went through and they didn't even get one cell that had cancer. They never came down with cancer or sickness or radiation illness. They didn't lose their hair. They came back fine. How is that? And they say, oh, because they went through the Van Allen radiation belt so fast. I've heard figures from 4 hours to maybe 1.5 hours that they were going through, and I had it explained to me. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Oh, it's like a candle. You go like this, you don't burn. You help burn. Oh, really? So if you have 4 hours of candle after candle after candle, guess where your hands going to be? Your little hands are going to be in heaven. And that's like, well, if I run really fast through a rainstorm, I'm not going to get wet. I'll just... Oh my God! Oh well, they are slugs. The slugs love to eat that, that crap. They love to gobble it down. If I had a highly radioactive nugget fresh from the mine, it's okay if I hold it only for an hour and a half. I'll be okay. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. And so the Van Allen radiation belt is very serious, and they're talking about it. I think it's the shield, the dome. That's what it is. You don't get past the dome. And it was the worst radiation level ever. And when you look at these pictures, the Earth is supposed to be 4 times the size of the moon. And we see the moon with the little teeny tiny Earth. They say, oh, well, they couldn't keep it a secret. Well, they sure kept the atomic bomb secret. 100,000 people worked on the atomic bomb, and there was not one leak. You have micrometeors. And these micrometeors in space, they're basically called space dust. And the space dust is just small particles of like iron, iron or whatever, right? Some of them can be the size of your fingernail. And so I looked up, and they're shooting through space like it's like a dust storm in space. They can do a lot of damage because they're extremely abrasive. So I looked up micrometeors. I'm more interested about the thumb-sized ones. Guess how fast they travel. I looked it up. I still think that's too hard to believe, but I looked it up on Wikipedia, and they travel at 20,500 miles an hour. But they bounce off the astronauts because they got Superman's cape and they made it into these space travel outfits. Bing, bang, bing, bing, bing. Watch this. Bing. Anyways, one of those would shoot through an astronaut, and if it didn't, because they have Superman's cape, that astronaut would be flying across the moon. Okay, the impact would be enormous. But they say, oh no, we got special technology that bounces them off, and because you get in the middle of these storms, and what it does is the sand, the micrometeor sand, will grind everything down to nothing. So how is the ISS still up there? I don't get it. That should have been shredded to nothing. So and they're up there, and these sandstorms will grind anything down to nothing, to dust. And then the astronauts, we don't know Armstrong was on the moon. We never saw his face because the helmets, but just beautiful polished glass. Should have been. That sand is so abrasive, they wouldn't have been able to see. Well, hey, Joe, where are you? Hey, Neil, over here. Oh, don't go near that cliff. Just absolutely ridiculous. See how childish it is? It's totally logical. And on top of all this, NASA has often stated that micrometeors are very prevalent when you get into space. Very prevalent. Oh, really? Well, how come the land? What's that? The lamb? The one that lands with the legs and everything. How come that wasn't ground down to powder? I don't get it. They just had little foil on top, And download a good picture of the lander, right? And blow it up, maybe lighten it up a bit. The flag that is on thank you, doctor, I can speak again. The flag that was stuck to the platform, I guess you say, of the land. Look, and what you'll see is crinkled paper. The flag is made out of paper, and you can see clear evidence of Scotch tape. So you can get that from NASA archives. So it hasn't been photoshopped. This is the best key point I find. Just absolutely smoking gun. Hasselblad camera. I've worked with Hasselblad cameras, but they are very, very delicate. They're handmade, and I think it takes a year. They're very delicate. They're like a fine watch of yesteryear. Very, very delicate. Very, very delicate. So they took pictures up there, and it was just fastened. You have to look down, and you can't with the helmet. You just have to look at something and hope you're getting a good picture. And they took 20 fantastically cropped pictures. I mean, they didn't need to be cropped. They were just basically perfect. I'm taking the best pictures ever taken. And the thing is, in the shade on the moon, it's 250 below zero. In the sunshine on the moon, it's 250 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, the maker of Hasselblad, or the company, they said they did nothing special, and NASA also said they did nothing special to the camera. So what happens is at 250 below zero, the film should have frozen, cracked, and broken into a million pieces. 250 degrees below zero, and then 250 above would scorch. I mean, it would just fry, and the camera wouldn't be able to work properly. The camera would not be able to work properly. And same if it was frozen, it would be just totally gone and wasted, destroyed. The camera does not deal with that kind of heat temperature. You have the right, the God-given right, to believe in fairy tales. Fairy tales can come true. They can happen to you if you're stupid and a slug. I can't believe that people don't even, and then you say something like that, which is absolute solid evidence. Those pictures were fake. And here's my favorite number one reason why we didn't get to the moon. Even if they had the most perfect technology and they weren't lagging far behind the Russians, even if they did it and it was politically, that's a landmine. If they blew up on the launching pad like all those rockets did, Werner Braun, he took care of it. I know he didn't take care of it. They were blowing up. And they had problems there's problems like fuel. The fuel was too heavy. So you have a big rocket with fuel. Well, that fuel's heavy. That rocket will never pull upwards. But hey, give a bigger rocket, but then you need more fuel, and you're not going to get off. Lightweight fuel was not invented at that time. So they didn't go to the moon. They couldn't take a chance. It was a gamble. It was throwing the dice. If it blew up on the launch pad, or if it blew up in space, or even if they couldn't get off the moon and they'd starve to death and die of thirst, America would never be able to save face. America would be the joke of the century, or forever. They'd be the joke, because they would be able to get over that, and the Russian launch would precede that and end up on the moon, and everybody would think Russia was the greatest nation on earth. It wouldn't have been a very good promotional thing to do. Okay, they couldn't take that chance. Imagine what the world. There would have been no space program ever. That would have been cut off immediately. There would be no funding of $51 million a day. That would be cut off immediately. They couldn't take the chance. They didn't have the technology, and so they were pretty much, somebody presented the problem of, well, what if it fails? What if there's a mission failure? Okay, we're going to have to make a movie. They would never be able to save face. They would never be able to fool the slugs with propaganda, because they would have seen it on TV. They're dead, every one of them. I know nothing changes because the slugs are too prevalent on this earth. They're in 1/6 gravity. Yeah. That's another thing. 1/6 gravity, they can only jump 18 inches high. I mean, it's endless. It's just endless. Absolutely endless. With experiments, you can't bend your fingers. You can't you can't pick up a screwdriver. You can't do anything. And how do they move so freely in their suits that are highly pressurized? I was walking on the moon one day, and